Hello and welcome to the Shinybees podcast, a podcast for those who like their knitting, comedy and yarn in equally large measures. I'm your host Jo Milmine and this is episode 73, The Three Little Pigs.
I feel a need to laugh again with you, if that's alright. I need a drink, I need a friend.
Hello and welcome into another episode of the podcast. How are you? I hope you are well since last time I spoke to you. Things have been a little bit mental around Shiny Heights in the last couple of weeks, which is why last week I just decided to take an impromptu week off podcasting. I'm not sorry. I'm not going to apologise because it was just crazy, and at some point you have to kind of throw yourself a bit of a bone, and it was just so mental that I just didn't have anything left to offer the podcast world. And I certainly wasn't feeling my usual witty self, which means you would have only got a substandard performance. And to be honest with you, I just wasn't up for conversing with the world, even with the help of Sock Kate, who came to visit me last week. It's been pretty crazy. Sammy got ill with a chest infection, didn't even realise. He had a bit of a cough, took him to the doctors for something else, got her to check it on the off chance, turned out he had a chest infection. He's one of these babies that never complains really until he's actually dying, and then it's the worst thing in the world. It's horrendous. He starts moaning and wailing and flailing around. It's very, very traumatic. So luckily we managed to catch that before it got to that stage again, because as some of you remember, we had every time we moved house, we seemed to have some kind of child-related trauma, and last time we moved house, we ended up staying in Dr. Gray's for a week, and he didn't end up having the disease he thought he had anyway. So that was that. Sisamondes, the beast, managed to have a day off school from being sick all over my sofa last Monday. And I was ill as well. I'd managed to catch some kind of weird lurgy and I was up sick. And I don't really get ill. I never get ill. So it's been pretty crazy on the general health front. And obviously I have a house that appears to be falling down in several places, and have been trying to arrange contractors to come and fix my roof. It turned out the last cowboy builder that went up there, despite having checked everything and done the quotes and talked to references and looked them up online and all the stuff that rogue traders tell you to do, he managed to do a total bodge job, and there's been a hole in the roof for probably 18 months. And the guttering's been blocked because of work they did, and they've gone out of business, so I can't even go chase him. Might get my brother to trip him up in the street maybe. But that isn't an admission of guilt in any way, shape or form. In case this person does fall in the street, my brother didn't do it, okay? And so I've had to get roofing contractors, and it's been like dealing with what can only be described as the Three Little Pigs, but with less communication, really. It's been mental. One of them just didn't turn up to the appointment whatsoever. One of them turned up a day late after coming in the dark. Why would you even bother doing that? Putting a card in my door in the dark. Why? And then quoted me $7,000 to fix 6 roof slates. And the other one just didn't book an appointment and rang me up whilst he was on my roof. Are you in? Am I in? Don't you think I'd have noticed if some fella was climbing on my roof? No, I'm not in. I'm in the pub having my lunch. So that was rather amusing. And luckily that I've managed to kind of sort that now, and my slates that were on my roof that were broken have been repaired. My chimney's been pointed on the side that the cowboys didn't bother pointing, and hopefully, fingers crossed, touching all wood, the house should be watertight. But it's been a bit of an experience dealing with workmen. In general, they're just a bit hard work, aren't they? So we'll see. Hopefully my tiles have been put back and the ones that are broken have been replaced, and my roof won't leak anymore. So that's good. That's sorted. Minor issue with the keys. Estate agent lost a set of keys. Had to change all the locks. Have to get a new back door. pretty much you name it really, there's wrong with the house. So I'm slowly working my way through it. But I went and bought a Christmas tree. That's the main thing. Stuck all my decorations up, and we're cracking on with the festive season. So it's all kind of meant that knitting has taken somewhat of a backseat, and as has the podcast, because last week was just not a good week for other reasons that I won't discuss. At Casa Shiny, if you will. And this week I'm feeling much better. Things are moving, progress is happening, and that's why I'm back with you podcasting today. I just can't podcast to you if I'm not feeling chipper. I feel like you'd be ripped off. You don't come to listen to misery, and I was a little bit miserable. But you come to listen to good bands, like Spider-Man on my roof, checking it out, having not made an appointment. Are you in? Anyway, what have I got for you today then? Well, I have some chatter following a visit at the weekend to Countess Ablaze's studio in Swinton in Manchester. And I have some Wippin Piccadilly news and a little bit of enabling as always. So grab yourself a drink. I don't know what we should have this week. Maybe some lemon tea, and we will crack on with the show. So, commencing with a Nibbler's Corner as usual, and following on from our interview a couple of weeks ago in episode 72 with Alice of Whistlebear Yawns, it is my duty to inform you that there's a sale on at Whistlebear, 20% off all the Yevering Bell DK and Aaron yarns. There is a little sneaky preview of the sock yarn. It looks like that's going to be going ahead. That's up on the website. But in the meantime, if all this mohair chatter has got you in the mood for trying some of it, then hop on over there and get yourself a bit of a bargain. I still have my Yevering Bell DK that I'm going to knit a lush in, but there's some really nice colours there. I quite like the Merlin's Claw. It looks quite bright and sunny and rich. It reminds me of the funny kind of, not orange but not yellow Fox's Glacier Mints, which are one of my favourite Glacier Mints. And, well, the fruit ones, they're not Glacier Mints, are they? Do they have Fox's Glacier Mints in the States? Someone tell me, someone let me know. It's definitely a thing in the UK, but I don't remember if I've ever seen them whilst being abroad. But yeah, sweeties, nice sweeties. And I'm going to have to go and get a bag tomorrow. And yeah, the colour reminds me of that. But there are lots of lovely colours available in all shades for those of you who fancy a try at some mohair. I'm sure I'll get my Lush Mark 15 on the needles at some point fairly soon, once I've finished bossing roofers around and sorting joiners out and painters and whatever else. And this is a good opportunity for you, even if you want a little swatchy to give it a try. Obviously you're getting 20% off, so effectively if you're going to do a jumper, it's buy 4 get 1 free. So consider yourselves heartily enabled to the sale at Whistlebear Yarns. You can find that at www.whistlebear.co.uk. And if you want to hear a bit more about the farm and lovely Alice, who produces the yarn and dyes it herself, check out episode 72. So on to visits then, and being out and about, if you will. This past weekend, I went on a little visit to Countess Ablaze's dye studio. It is a new studio. She used to have one in Portland Street in Manchester, I think, and I don't believe that was open to the public. But she's very recently opened one in Swinton in Manchester, which is more Salford really than Manchester. And obviously I decided it would be a great idea to go along, and I did invite you all to come, if you remember. So we popped on over there on the weekend. It's very easy to get to from my house. You just get the train over from Wigan to Swinton, and then it's a short 5 to 10 minute max walk from the train station. So it's quite easy to get to from Piccadilly in Manchester, etc. as well. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Countess, she is a Manchester-based indie dyer, and she's a bit fabulous. I a bit love her. Everyone a bit loves her. None of us know why we do. She's just brilliant. She does lovely, lovely colours and has fantastic colourway names as well, which I always really like a good colourway name. It sort of adds to the whole thing, really. And if you're a fan of Instagram, follow her on there. She's at Countess Ablaze. She has a really great Instagram feed, loads of yarn. A dog called Gaius, who occasionally makes it onto Instagram too. And she has some health issues, and she started to wear wigs because she had alopecia. I don't think she actually has alopecia anymore, but she still wears these fab wigs. They're just amazing. She had this really cool one on, a red one, on the weekend. It's just like, wow. So like stylish and cool. So, and you've got this awesome studio. And so we went. I was a little bit fangirly and met up with some of the podcast listeners and TGS crew to do some knitting and eat some cake and support one of our local dyers. It was Small Business Saturday after all. Completely valid. I am supporting small business by going and eating cake in the Countess's studio, and I will be there again this weekend for the Saturnalia party, but that's by the by. And it was really great fun. She has a very specific aesthetic and style to her work, which I like because you can kind of spot her stuff a mile off, which is really good. She's into quite bright colours and kind of quite crazy combinations, but she also does a range of semi-solids, and she does some awesome yarn clubs, and she does fibre as well. So if you're into pretty much anything yarny and you haven't checked her out before, then you need to go over to countessablaze.co.uk and have a look. She was a very, very gracious host. The studio was downstairs in a Victorian building, big bay window at the front. And we popped up into there out of the gloomy grey Manchester rain and were welcomed into a beautiful, bright, white studio. There were cakes all over the tables. There was yarn all over the walls. And it was knit group as well, so we got to meet some of the knit group regulars too. And there was some mohair love. And because she's doing a mohair sock yarn at the moment, which you can find over on her website. And also there's a mohair, like a floofy mohair, kid mohair and silk, I think it is, blend that's available too, which is really nice for shawls and things. I may have made a purchase, just a small one. I got some neon yellow yarn. I almost bought some neon pink yarn, but I went for, in the end, neon yellow yarn with some sparkly bits in it. Why not? I love highlighter yellow. It's one of my favourite colours. Shouldn't be a surprise, really. And so I bought that. We were accompanied by Sock Kate and Ecky Thump and her sister, who's also a knitter, Sparkly Shoe, who you will have heard before on the I Make podcast way back in the day, as well as Gingerbread Bunny and her friend Michelle. So there was a little gang of us, as well as the knit crew, massive, from the studio. And it's open on Fridays and Saturdays, so if you want to go visit the Northwest and you're around and you want to pop in, it's really easy to get to. Certainly worth it on the cake front, and if you buy any yarn, it's not my fault. Cannot be held responsible for any enabling that takes part as a result of the podcast. So if you are going to the party on Saturday, I know Isle of Brit Yarn is and a few others, let me know. I will see you there anyway. But if not, I recommend you make a visit. It's definitely worth it. And if you are further afield, then give her a follow on Instagram, because she always posts when she's doing updates, etc. on there, and you can indulge yourself in some of her lovely colourways. Wippin Piccadilly, then, apt as I've been in and around Manchester so much recently. There's been some knitting. Knitting has been committed. Finished things include the Lush cardigan for the Beast, which is neon yellow and has been ongoing for some time. That is now completely complete, off the needles. And that's it. I haven't finished much else. I have started quite a bit of stuff. Ongoing projects include the Owligan by Kate Davies. This is the cardigan version of owls, which is one of her famous patterns that has owls around the yoke. I do have an owl's jumper and decided I was going to knit an Owligan cardigan to keep me nice and cosy in Scotland in winter. I don't live in Scotland anymore, but it does get cold in a big old drafty Victorian house with a hole in the roof. Or not anymore, yay! And decided to knit one because it was pegged as being really quick. It's knit on 9mm needles, it's new Lanik chunky held double, so in theory it should be really quick and easy. Unfortunately, I've not found this to be the case, and I've also heard this from other people who have knit it. I have quite little hands. Like it's been commented on how little my hands are. Like my ring size is a J. I have wee little kind of like not even 6-inch hands. And I'm finding it really hard work to hold the yarn double and do the knitting with the big needles. It feels like a bit of a workout. The manoeuvres involved in working with yarn that size are quite large. And it's like being at the gym. So it's quite tiring and quite slow. I love the way the fabric's knitting up, and it is going to be super, super cosy. And actually the new Lanik chunky yarn, which is from New Lanik Mill, which I've talked about in a previous episode, a visit to there, is known for being a little bit robust initially and then softening up afterwards. And in fairness, I've got to say that it doesn't feel that robust to me. It's not rough on the hands or anything like that, and if it softens up from what it already is, it's going to be really, really nice, but yet wear really well. That's, reports of people who've used it say that is the case. So I'm quite happy with the fabric. The pattern is easy, as it's meant to be, but the actual action of knitting is not. So I think I've found my kind of lace weight. People complain about knitting with lace weight and they find it really hard. Lace weight doesn't bother me at all. I'm quite happy knitting lace weight because it's the same size needles, and the fact that the yarn is thinner doesn't really upset me. And I like knitting with chunky yarn. I don't like knitting with super, super chunky yarn. I think probably anything above 6.5mm on the needle front is too big for me. So I'm going to plough on with it and enjoy the finished object, but it's certainly not anything I think I would be knitting again in a hurry, and I certainly won't be looking for jumbo knitting projects in a hurry because I just think they're a little bit too big. So that's Owligan by Kate Davies. The next thing I cast on was Not Fragile Heart, Be With You for the Bead Along. This is a pattern by Boo Knits. She's another UK designer. You can find her on Ravelry, and also she was interviewed in a very recent episode. Might have been 69, 70. And she's lovely, Bev. Really, really nice lady. Does beautiful patterns. And I am knitting this, or was knitting this, spoiler, in the Travel Knitter Stromboli colourway, which is on her Tanami base, which is a 4-ply, 50% baby camel, 50% silk. This is one of the colours from the autumn quarter of the Golden Skein. One of the benefits of owning the companies that I get to keep the yarn, or one of the yarns for me, for advertising purposes, obviously. And this was dyed by Travel Knitter, who is Larissa Barry, and she's based in London, East London. You can find her shop on Etsy. And it's a beautiful, beautiful yarn base. And I started knitting the pattern, but it started bugging me straight away. I've discovered that I don't enjoy doing increases on both sides, because you have like a make one right, make one left, then you have make one right purl, make one left purl, and each one is different, and it was just annoying me, probably because I was so annoyed by everything else going on with my house and my roof and everything else. I just did not have the capacity for anything that wasn't completely ready salted knitting. So I played on with it for a bit longer and then decided that it was bugging me, and that was that. And then I found a stitch that was wrong, and then that was my excuse to rip it out. The yarn doesn't particularly enjoy being ripped out, so I'm going to have to be quite careful what I do with it, because I don't think I'll be able to rip it again without it complaining. So my friend sent me Voodoo, which is another Boo Knits pattern with loads of beads. So I'm going to cast that on instead, because it's still beaded, it's still a shawl, and I can still, the rules are you can have any beaded shawl, so I'm going to change to that. I was going to change to Kunya with some Beedale, Eden Cottage Yarns Beedale in the colourway Ash, which is 50% baby yak, 50% silk yarn, and it is like clouds. But again, I wasn't 100% sure that was the correct choice of pattern for yarn. Not that it wouldn't work, I just had a niggling doubt that I wasn't doing the right thing with it, so I didn't actually wind it or cast it on. So yeah, I'm going to go for Voodoo and see how that works out, and hopefully this one will be better, although there are still increases on both sides. I'm hoping that by cleansing my mind a little bit of home improvements, it should be a bit easier. So that is Voodoo / Be With You by Boo Knits for the bead along, or the shiny bead along, and you can still come join in if you like. It is ongoing. Some people have finished. It's amazing. Some lovely projects floating around already, which makes my little heart happy. My little shiny magpie heart happy. So I did cast on some more things, 'cause I can, and ennobled. If you want to cast something on, just cast it on. Don't feel guilty. Just enjoy it. And this was a pair of socks in a yarn from the winter quarter of the Golden Skein. I can't tell you about them yet. I can only tell you that I cast them on and they're a pair of socks. But I'll give you the details in a couple of episodes' time, because I'm very much enjoying these socks. Take from that what you will. And that's all I'm working on really actively. The project amount has grown and the amount that I'm knitting on has not. However, I just think sometimes when life gets a little bit crazy and everything is kind of going on around you, it sounds a little bit like If, but it's not. I am no Kipling, but I do a reasonable poem. The answer is to just knit something easy, that in yarn that you love, that's not in any way challenging to you, so you can zone out and just chill a bit. So I think the mojo is back, and hopefully I'll have more to report on the knitting front soon. I'd like a bit of garment action. I think I need a big project again after this beaded shawl, so we'll see what happens. Feel free to pop over to the thread on Ravelry and tell me what you're working on right now, or if you've done any of those projects and you have any top tips or any feedback on those, particularly the Kate Davies one, because it's quite a popular pattern. Bob on over there and let me know what you think. In other things to enable you to, just before we wrap up this episode for this week, if you're not aware, and it's possible you won't be, but most people are, that's not a slight on you if you're not aware of it, but Wovember was taking place for the whole of November over at wovember.com. Now, unlike Movember, where everyone grows a moustache, and if you can't grow a moustache, you could just knit one. There was a pattern pick on moustaches, I think, way back in single figure episodes. There was definitely an episode on Movember, which is an initiative to raise awareness of testicular cancer. This is Wovember. And speaking of testicular cancer, because this time of night, I'm going to jump around all over the show. There is a guy who used to be in the RAF, and he was aircrew pilot, who had testicular cancer and won the award for Britain's manliest man. Well, now he's trying to become the new milk tray man. with probably his one little spud left, and again to raise awareness of testicular cancer. Not that testicular cancer is by any means a joke, but clearly he will have got some serious banter from his work colleagues and friends and family alike about his condition. Once he was fine, obviously, they would have bantered him. So yeah, he's trying to become the new milk tray man. I'm not sure if voting is still open, but I'll put a link in the show notes to it, because I don't know. I think it's cool. I think he'd be a good milk tray man. I might send him a knitted spud, because I think he'd find that funny. Anyway, from testicles to wherever I was going, Wovember. Right, yeah. A day in the life, eh? It's like this all the time with me, it really is. Wovember is a campaign to raise awareness of the wonderfulness and amazingness of wool. And each year, for the whole of Wovember, articles are written and put on the Wovember website, and there are different photographic challenges and all sorts of things celebrating everybody's love of wool. I did write something last year about basically beyond merino and BFL, and about trying different breeds that you've not tried before, but hand-dyed different breeds, because it is nowadays reasonably easy to get hold of breed yarns. Certainly I know where to go if I want to look for breed yarns, and if you're in the UK, that involves going to Blacker Yarns or to Black Bat are my recommendations there. And Woolsack also have a list of small single farm producers as well that they're compiling, which I will link to in the show notes, because we like to enable you and we like to look after our small producers. This year was the year of the small producer, and I wrote a little blog for it, not a little boggy wog. And yeah, it was good fun. For those that don't know, in my other occupation, shall we say, when I'm not peddling yarn, I'm helping other people to peddle yarn and designs, and I work with people in the sort of yarn industry on all sorts of kind of business strategy and dealing with sort of overwhelm of a growing business, and kind of, yeah, taking that next step from it being a smaller business into being more of a going concern, if you will. And I'm really passionate about small producers as well. I absolutely love single farm yarns and the idea that all of this fleece can come from one farm, and it's got real proper integrity and provenance, and to be able to really see where that's come from and hear the story of the yarn is something that I particularly enjoy. And like we discussed when I interviewed Boo, that's the reason why I love hand-dyed yarn as well. Not because I'm snobby, although I might be slightly, I think. It's not a snobby, I'm only going to knit with hand-dyed because I'm stuck up. It's because that's a work of art before you even start, and I really like the idea that someone's had their personal hands on every single skein and picked a colour and developed it and worked on it before I ever even get to touch it. I really like that, and I also like single farm yarns for that reasoning, that it's all come from one place and there's a real kind of, like I say, it's an integrity behind the yarn. And I wanted to really help those guys out, because some of the feedback was that not everyone understands why they need to be on the internet. And also I found personally, and I've talked about it before, that I found these amazing yarns that I think, oh yeah, I know that person will love that and that listener will love that, and it's really difficult to send you to them if there is no way of buying online, or if it involves a transatlantic phone call to make an order for yarn. And I really wanted to help those people. So I've written an article about how to bring small producers and their customers closer together for the very, very beginner. Because there's loads of things you can do to bring yourself closer to your customers. And there are loads of strategies, and it's all really in depth. But you know what, when you're running a farm, you just want a quick start guide. You want something, a couple of things that are quite easy, that will just massively increase your likelihood of being found and of people being able to come and buy your stuff without having to be a tech genius or knowing the ins and outs of digital marketing or similar. So I'll put a link in the show notes to that, and it's had some quite good feedback, so thank you if you have posted a comment on that, and hopefully it will be useful for people. But I direct you to that, obviously because I wrote it, and to all the other blog posts on Wovember if you haven't discovered it already, because it is, if you like wool, it's definitely the place to hang out. My woolly muckers, Felicity Ford, Felix, aka Knit Sonic, and Louise at Knit British have been heading the charge on that again this year, and there's been some awesome work there. So if you enjoy reading the woolly stuff, that is something you definitely need to check out if you haven't already. And also in enabling news, the Shinybees yarn is in advanced stage of development and production, and I am planning to send out an email about it in the next week. So if you want to be first up, first in the queue, and getting involved in some of the shiny yarn, the celebration colourway for being the world's most engaged audience and being awesome, that's you guys, obviously, then that is where you'll be able to find the details for that, and hopefully we can have some woolly fun together. There will also be some podcast swag coming out very, very soon. So if you want to be in on that, join the mailing list and you will be the first to hear about it and the other evil plans and clever tricks. So I am afraid that is all we have time for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the show. It's been rather a chatty one, and you've probably heard my chipper demeanour returning as the episode has gone on. As always, it's been an absolute delight to spend a few nitty minutes with you this week, and I'd like to thank you all very much for listening. If you're a new listener, I hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you're a returning listener, thank you for joining me again. I really, really appreciate it, as always. So I hope you'll all have a great week. Happy crafting, and I will speak to you all again soon. Bye. You've been listening to the Shinybees podcast, a podcast for those who like their knitting, comedy and yarn in equally large measures. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can do so via the blog, or I'm Shinybees on Ravelry, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest and Facebook. You can email me at shinybeesinfo@gmail.com. Music for this episode is provided by Music Alley, and it is Adam and the Water Boys and I Need a Drink.
I need a drink.